Sawadee-kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today's our group learning program, and we're in chapter 2 of our book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This chapter is titled, Why Study Gotama Buddha's Teachings? If you've read this already, you'll know what I share in there in terms of why it's important to study Gotama Buddha's teachings. But today we're going to do meditation together first, then we're going to have kind of an open discussion and talk and give an opportunity to meet all of you guys and give you guys an opportunity to meet each other as well. So welcome to our class today, whether you're joining for the first time or you're joining regularly. If you're in Facebook or YouTube or any of those other places, you're more than welcome to come into Zoom because we're going to have a really nice chat, spending some time together, opening up our microphones, opening up our cameras, being able to interact with each other. It's going to be a really nice time because now we're about 6 weeks into the group learning program. It's a great time to meet each other and have a really nice conversation because we've been learning a whole lot over the last 5 or 6 weeks, and now's kind of an opportunity to just sit back and chat and have a nice talk with each other and get to know each other. So as I mentioned, we're going to start with meditation, just like we always do. I'll do the chanting, then I'll provide some guidance, then there'll be a period of time where we're just all meditating together, then we'll come out of the meditation with some chanting. So if you'd like to join along, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to just get started with the chanting, and if you guys know these, you're more than welcome to join along. Otherwise, you'll be able to learn these in about 2 weeks from now when I do the 4-part series on Buddhist chanting. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Otang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakhato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Oto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาโอตังมหาเขวันนังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสานามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโอโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, I'd like to welcome all of you guys. Welcome to our class today, whether you're joining for the first time or you're joining regularly. Typically what I'm doing is I'm giving a talk each Sunday out of this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. We just recently restarted this program about 6 weeks ago. And I'm usually teaching for maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes and then opening up to questions. Then I'll teach another 15, 20, 30 minutes and open up to questions. But today's going to be a little bit different because we're in chapter 2, and this chapter is titled Why Study Gotama Buddha's Teachings. And rather than tell you why you should study because you're making your own choices and you're making your own decisions in life, I've shared with you why I've chosen to study the teachings of the Buddha and why I think it's wise to study the teachings of the Buddha inside chapter 2. And if you're interested in that, you can actually read that, or if you'd like to ask me questions about that today, you're more than welcome. But instead, what I like to do in this particular class is use this time to give you guys an opportunity to talk about why it is that you've chosen to study the teachings of the Buddha. Maybe you've been studying for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Maybe you've been studying for a few years. Maybe you've been studying for many years. Whatever the situation, it'd be interesting for you to share maybe a little bit about yourself. Maybe you could share your name. You could share where you live. If you'd like to share your age, you're welcome to do that. Maybe you'd like to even share what you do in the world, what your occupation is. And then ultimately, maybe you can talk a bit about why you chose to study the teachings of the Buddha, or maybe even what your journey's been like if you have been studying the teachings of the Buddha. This gives us an opportunity to just have a nice open discussion, get to know each other. Like I mentioned, if you'd like to open up your camera, open up your microphones, things like that, it's a really great time for us to be able to kick back, relax, and have some nice discussion now that we've been studying for the last 5 or 6 weeks throughout the program. And then next week, what we're going to be doing is getting right back into the studying, where we're going to be in chapter 3. Chapter 3 is titled Enlightenment, what is enlightenment, this is the real beginning of the real heart of the book, where you start to learn more about this enlightened mental state. And I'm going to be teaching you that next week. And then we get into the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the Middle Way. We talk about the 5 precepts. These are all subsequent classes. Each individual week, we're going boom, 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 boom. Really big, meaty topics. We're going to be talking about the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots, the natural law of Karma, what is merit. We're going to be discussing meditation inside and out. We're going to really be getting into some real deep topics. So this is our chance to just kind of sit back, breathe a little bit, kind of talk with each other and get to know each other. So if you'd like to participate in this discussion, all you need to do is in Zoom, electronically raise your hand. And then when I see that, I'll be able to call on you, and then you'll be able to open up your microphone and be able to share anything you'd like to share. I just gave you a few ideas of things you could share, but it doesn't mean you have to share those things. And then for those of you guys in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, Facebook or YouTube, if you would like to come into Zoom, you're more than welcome to come into Zoom. You should see the login details right there in the comment section of the video in Facebook or YouTube, and you'll be able to come into Zoom and participate. But if for some reason you're not able to do that, or you're not interested in doing that, you can also participate by putting some details into the comment section of Facebook or YouTube, and I'll see that, and then I'll read it for you in class so that you can participate from Facebook or YouTube. So if there's anybody who would like to share and go first, you're more than welcome to go first. This is a great way to get rid of that personal existence view and kind of practice not being worried about what other people may or may not think, or your image or your identity or anything like that. So is there anyone in Zoom that would like to share? Okay, it looks like we've got at least 2 or 3 brave ones. Okay, let's see. So I saw Marcy's hand first. That came up first. So Marcy, if you'd like to go, and then Ted and Kristen, if you guys would like to go after that. And then if anyone else would like to volunteer, you can put up your hand too, and I'll just go into like a little queue here.
Thank you, Teacher David. I just want to say it's lovely to see everybody. I started with Teacher David probably back in, I want to say 2020, I think it was, Teacher David. My journey to resolving my mental anguish started before that. Suffered some, life challenges, became a recluse, lived in my house, didn't go anywhere, didn't talk to any family. Basically, the mind just totally lived in misery. I can go into the long laundry list of things of, multiple suicide attempts, drugs, just very unfortunate situation. Well, I shouldn't say unfortunate, because now I look at it and I think it was fortunate. But in 2020, I had searched the internet for the word Pali Canon, and it brought me to Teacher David. And from there, I have been practicing with Teacher David. I've had taken some, little hiatuses here and there when I was really trying to wrap the mind around the actual Noble Eightfold Path. But I can honestly say that without a doubt, this has been the most beneficial thing I have ever endeavored in my life. All the effort, all the dedication has paid off. I have an amazing job that falls right in with right livelihood. I get to care for people in their homes. I make a profitable livelihood where now I don't worry about finances or bills. All of my relationships in my life with my family, coworkers, are harmonious, which had any of you met Marcy prior to entering this, I was not a friendly person, very combative, argumentative, very bossy, a lot of anger, ill will, wouldn't think twice about, throwing hands at any moment, at any time, and very, very, very turmoil. But I'm glad I had endured all of what I have endured in my lifetime, because it has brought me to this point. And now I do appreciate and understand the calm, peaceful joyful mind that this practice has brought. I'm a mom of 3. I have 2 dogs, 2 cats, 2 guinea pigs that I'm slowly not adding anymore. And I think that's about it. But I hope to hear from every one of you. I always see all your faces, and it's nice to see how much the classes have grown in this time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Marcy. Can I ask you a few questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. In the time that you've been learning and practicing, what would you say the biggest challenge has been for you, and how did you overcome it?
I would say that my biggest challenge as of this moment is actually that personal existence view for me right now. And it's more about the fact that it's not, I have this image that I had created of the mind prior to entering the path, where I was this, big badass, tattooed, I will bring you down kind of attitude. So a lot of people who knew me kind of still see me in that manner. Whereas now, I'm not interested in people having that perception of me. So that personal existence view is like, I'm trying to find a balance where I can, this sounds so weird, change how people see me. But I do understand that over time, with practice and dedication, and it will eventually happen. But I would say personal existence view right now and how the world sees me has been my challenge. But I will say that the dedication and of the meditation of learning to let go, literally let go. I know it sounds just so simple, but it can be very difficult to just let go. But it's the repetition. You just got to keep at it, keep going, do it again and again and again and again and again. And it gets easier. It does get easier. So I would say that's it.
Okay. And why have you decided, or why did you decide to study the teachings of the Buddha?
Oh, I'm sorry, Teacher David. I think my computer stopped connecting for a minute there.
Sure. Why is it that you decided initially? Like you said, you did a search for Pali Canon. What was it that brought you to that point?
So basically, I had lost my job. I had lost all communication with my family. I was heavily into, certain drugs, and I was taking prescription medications. And I was finding the mind was going into, all right, that's it. I'm checking out. Like, I'm done with this world. I can't take it anymore. I don't want to breathe anymore. I don't want to see anymore. I don't want to be a part of anything anymore. I just want it to be over. I just want it to be done. And it was either take that bottle of prescription medication and call it quits, or find a way out, find peace. And something inside of me said that this life is worth living. I just got to find the right way to live it, how to do it, where to go to get it. And I started studying ancient civilizations, and I came upon the Tibetan culture, and I started looking into the Lim Ra and understanding their way of life, their practice, their things. But they had a lot of rites, rituals, and ceremonies that were attached to it. And, I grew up in a very religious home, but they kind of didn't practice what they preached. It was kind of completely opposite of that. So I wasn't really finding that these rites, rituals, and ceremonies were alleviating my mental anguish. But I did notice that with the meditation, I was getting some relief. So I said, I want to know who this guy Buddha was. I want to know who Gautama Buddha was. Like, I want to hear it from him directly from him. I want his words. I don't want anybody else's version or translation or whatever. I just want to hear what the Buddha said. And I came across, I can't remember what website it was that had the 45 volumes and all the different suttas on it of the Pali Canon. And it was very difficult for the mind to actually read those suttas and draw any benefit from them. So I was having some frustration. So I just searched, Pali Canon, just looking for English translation of the Pali Canon. And that's what led me to you. And the first thing that is when I actually, stopped crying and stopped blubbering and stopped the whole poor me thing and started actually reading volume 1 in the Four Noble Truths, that's when I really had the breakthrough. Well, I realized, holy crap, I have the key to this all the time. It's just a matter of how my mind perceives the world and what it experiences. So I stopped the whole victim role and realized and said, okay, you're tired of feeling like crap, Marcy. You're tired of being depressed, Marcy. You're tired of feeling sad. You're tired of feeling like you want to end your life. Well, guess what? You have the power to do that, and you have to train your mind. So let's buckle down. And then I think it was probably a good month straight. I read the Four Noble Truths like every night and tried to pick a little bit more, pick a little bit more, pick a little bit more, and tried to get the mind to wrap around that. It's not the world, and it's not all of these situations that you experience, and it's not all the people that are causing all of this mental anguish. It is because your mind is untrained and you're allowing all of these external circumstances control how you feel. And that was it. No one is ever going to control my mind again, not even the mind itself. I'm going to take back control. And ever since then, it's true. I've been going up and then I kind of fall back a little bit and then I go up a little bit more. But every time I go up and I get closer to the teachings, I can feel the wisdom in the mind getting stronger and stronger. So for me, this is 100% without a doubt the way for life. This is the way for life.
So are there any regrets that you have about learning the teachings?
No, not a single solitary regret. Not a single solitary regret. Not one. Not one. This is, I always tell people I wish I could put my hand on them so that they could feel the anguish that existed in the mind prior to walking this path, and then be able to touch them with the other hand so they could see where the mind is now. And it's night and day. My son actually says that I found the fountain of youth. I was probably smoking up to 3 packs of cigarettes a day, living off of Coca-Cola and powdered donuts. And I am no word of a lie. That was my intake. And that was for years. And he says, Mom, you actually look like you've regressed, like you've gotten younger. So, it's just been absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Best choices, best amount of time I spend. Yeah. So
you were essentially slowly killing yourself, and you were in the darkness, and now you're walking towards the light.
Oh, yes. Okay. Very much so. Very, very much so.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that, Marcy. Appreciate it.
Thank you for allowing me.
Yeah, appreciate that. If anybody has any questions for people as they talk, you're welcome to raise your hands or put them in Zoom or into YouTube or Facebook, and we can make sure like Marcy gets questions from you guys or whoever volunteers as we go forward in class. You guys can ask each other questions too. You can even open up your mic and ask each other questions and talk if you like. All right. So thank you, Marcy. Appreciate that. Looks like Ted and or Kristen have their hand up. So let's go to you guys next.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Kristen. And Marcy, thank you for sharing. I really related to a lot of it and appreciate your honesty. And the reason I raised my hand is because I struggle with personal existence view all the time. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to share because I don't want to share. So my journey started, I think about 3 years ago when I got to a point in my life where I was kind of in my mind, I'd reached that place where I was like in a job that I really had imagined me being in. I was making the money that I had always imagined that I'd want to make. I had all the stuff, all the nice things around me. And suddenly realized, like, but I'm still not really happy. I'd been working really hard and, trying to get to, I guess check off all the boxes that I thought was going to make me happy ultimately. Like I got married, I, bought a house, I was making I think, a decent amount of money, more than I ever thought that I could make. And doing well in my job and, all the accolades and all that sort of stuff. But I was like unhappy. And I just kept seeing this like cycle of samsara of trying to find happiness. I think I have it. And then hanging on to it for dear life. And then I'm unhappy. And then just keep going through this cycle of life. And I was like, there's got to be more to this. And I just didn't know where to find it or how to go about changing. Like I was sort of like in this place of just like generally not feeling really happy, but not sure exactly why. And so I thought the next thing I ought to try to do is embrace maybe like yoga more. And so I decided to do teacher training and thought, right, maybe that's where I'll find the answer. But I did. I mean, it did open doors. It helped me to find meditation about 3 years ago, and started meditating. But again, meditating was amazing. Ted and I do a lot of this together. And it was helping sort of slow down my mind because I tend to get confused a lot when, I get sort of overwhelmed. My mind will get confused. So it helped with like slowing down my mind a little bit, and seeing things a little clearer. But again, I didn't have a clear path of how to really get through life. Like I sort of felt like, I'm just trying to figure things out as I go. And anyway, long story, I quit my job 6 months ago because I feel like I needed to shock my system in some way and find something that was going to like shake me up a little bit and find what I was really needing in my life, which brought me to Thailand, and we met David. We went to a temple, and what was his name? Vidi was there, and he was sharing about the temple, and we sat down with him for like a good half hour or so, and he mentioned that there was a meditation across the way, tomorrow morning. And so we were like, oh, well, that would be great. We meditate already. It would be great to do it in this setting at a temple. And we walked in and we met David, and there was a group of people, and the chanting was just like, wow, what's this, right? I was like, wow. But then David, you started sharing about the teachings, and I was like, oh, there's an actual path and steps and something I can actually follow and sort of track progress, and there's actual like things that I can really do instead of just sort of like living in this sort of this idea of what I thought was peace. But here I can like actually dig deep and practice, and like there's steps, and I really, that like just made sense to me. And I was like, oh, okay. So since we left Thailand, I've been listening a lot to the podcasts and logging in when I can. And that's sort of my story. I'm 50 years old, no children. Ted and I got married 10 years ago, so we're kind of like late in life. figuring things out in relationships. Like neither of us ever thought we'd get married, and here we are. So that's kind of my story, and I just appreciate, David, you deciding to change your whole life to teach us, and sharing the teachings, because I finally feel like, oh, I have a plan. Like there's a path that I can go on, and it's nice because I need it. I need it very much.
Yeah,
so that's my story.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Can I ask you some questions, Kristen?
Sure.
Have you had any like kind of aha moments along the short little time that you've been studying?
Yes, I have. The fact that I have them frequently, actually, just when I'm interacting with people. And this idea of this, I never even knew what to call it, but this idea of self has been a challenge, because I tend to either allow people really into my life and then I become attached to them. So much so that I've only allowed a few people to get that close to me. And I'm not very generous, I think, with myself because of that. And I'm learning to kind of let go of that a little bit more. And if that makes sense, but try to just be more generous with myself and let go of the attachment to the outcomes, attachment to people's reactions to things, attachments to, they may not necessarily accept me the way that I am, but just trying to let go of all of that and not try to change who I am or act a different way because of it, if that makes sense. But I don't know. I'm learning that more and more. Like I see that in myself. I'm volunteering, which is probably the best job I've ever had in my life. And I'm just cleaning stalls all day, horse poop and urine. And it's the best job I've ever had. I'm happy doing it.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
Yeah, because it's just I don't know, I'm learning a lot that I have to just really let go of this idea in my mind of what I think has always been right and wrong, and just try to be in the moment and let go of all of that stuff that goes on in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. With you and Ted practicing and learning at the same time, do you guys have conversations, offline about the teachings? Are you guys chatting about them and things like that?
Yeah, we do. Usually after class, we'll kind of talk about it. Where we are, we're at different places. Sometimes we're right on and we're yeah, I completely get that. But we learn from each other. We talk about it. He reminds me sometimes to just try to let that go, or it's good. I think we talked about also practicing maybe on our own a little, and meditating on our own and not always using each other. Because if he's I'm not in the mood, I'll be okay, I'm not in the mood either. Or, so we have to make sure that we're continuing to practice even, together, but also on our own.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges when you have a partner that you're with, is that you're attached, obviously, but you guys can get to the point where you still have a wonderful relationship, even better relationship, but you're not attached. And that shows the attachment, that if he's yeah, I'm not going to meditate today, if you choose not to meditate, that's the attachment there. It's I can't do this unless Ted does it. So you guys would like to get free of that, where sometimes you meditate together, but you're able to meditate alone as well. My son was doing this with basketball. He would want to go to play basketball in the village at the basketball court, and he would only go if I would go. So I had to kind of slowly help him to learn that he can go on his own. And I had to do little skillful things to help him along the way. And these are things that I could share if anybody is interested.
Okay. Yeah, so we did start to actually talk about that more, about how we both kind of, we'll rely a little bit on each other. And it's good to push each other, but also make sure that we're getting our meditation in every day, whether that's with him or without him.
Okay, good. Good. All right. Well, thank you for sharing, Kristen. Appreciate that. And it was nice to see you guys here in Thailand. I was actually just editing a podcast from y'all's first class when Ted was asking a bunch of questions. Okay, so looks like Paul has his hand up. So Paul, if you'd like to go next, you're welcome to.
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
David, can you hear me? Yeah, great. It just so happens that I will be going to Thailand in January. It's on a tour, a group tour, and was hoping we're actually going to be in your village, and I was going to try to connect with you while I'm there. I also have set up a one-on-one since the last video call, one-on-one with you the coming Tuesday, David, to talk more about my situation. But just for the group here, I've just started this program a couple of months ago, through the podcasts, and only just the last 3 video group sessions, the ones we're having right now. This is only the 3rd time I've been on. And I'm recently retired. Been retired for a couple of years now. Was an engineer in my life. I worked for the longest time, and so I was very much looking forward to retire. But I'm still struggling, to try to find a better way of living. I just find that I'm unsatisfied, and I know there's got to be a better way to live and think. And I haven't figured it out. I'm a skeptical guy, so I'm not on board yet with this, but I'm also stubborn, and I'm going to keep trying. I mentioned on the last call that I started like 40 years ago with TN. And I know this is a very different thing, but I was at that point a student and thinking, skeptically then that I could get some, relief doing that. But and I continued stubbornly on and off over the years. I never really gave up on that. But as I retired, I thought maybe I should explore other options, and I went to this One Giant Mind app and kept at that, for over a year, and didn't really, wasn't satisfied, and so that's why more recently I'm trying your program, and I'm dedicated to continue doing it. But I have a skeptical mind, and I have a mind that just is racing all the time. I was hoping in retirement that would subside, but it's not. As a matter of fact, it's maybe in some ways gotten worse. What I tend to do is never live in the moment. I'm always mostly in the future. I'm like a control freak, and I plan. And you can imagine how this trip to Southeast Asia, how much planning will go into that, and concerns and thoughts and so on. Is very challenging for me. But I just plod ahead. I just keep getting through life day by day. But I'm not satisfied doing that. So anyhow, that's my story. I have a couple of children. They're grown up now, but one is actually living with us at the moment, but that's temporary. And yeah, we're retired, and I'm just trying to take advantage of this time to find something that will help the way I feel.
Great. That skeptical mind is going to really help you, Paul, because a skeptical mind isn't going to believe things, which this practice isn't about any kind of belief. You're going to need to be able to see the truth. So that's really actually to your favor, that you'll investigate and sink in and try to really figure out the wisdom of the teachings of the Buddha. So that's going to ultimately help you. I know that Marcy is from Rhode Island or lives in Rhode Island. I know that Ted and Kristen, they live in Connecticut in Florida. I think they're in Florida right now. But what about you, Paul? Where do you live?
I'm just outside of Toronto, Canada, a place called St. Catharines, about 45 minutes from Niagara Falls.
Oh, okay. Did you grow up in that area?
An idea. Pardon me?
Did you grow up in that area?
No, I grew up in a town called Cornwall, across the St. Lawrence River from Messina, New York.
Mm.
Not too far from the province of Quebec. I'm in the province of Ontario now and then, but in the southern part. And I lived in Quebec, Montreal. That's where I met my wife. I speak French as well as English, obviously. And yeah, my father was a French Canadian, and my mother was English. So I learned French and actually worked in French when I was in Montreal. But mostly, my kids don't know French. My wife, she grew up in Montreal, so she had to learn French, but she's an Anglophone. The most recent move to St. Catharines was only 4 years ago. Prior to that, we were closer to Toronto, a place called Burlington. And we moved a lot through my career, including living in the States for some 6 years in places like Erie, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C., but then eventually moved back to Canada.
Yeah, I don't hear a Canadian accent for some reason.
Yeah, well, you might come out eventually.
Okay.
Now we talk. But
Okay.
I'm not holding back or anything. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. Oh, very, very nice. Nice to meet you, Paul. Welcome. I know that you've just recently started attending the classes, and yeah, we'll talk on Tuesday and even get a chance to know each other a bit more, and you can learn.
I'm surprised that your reaction to my skeptical mind, because it's gotten me into a lot of trouble. It's probably the root of my unhappiness is my analytical mind, and how I overthink. And even from a childhood age, I remember my mother I was always trying to protect my mother. I was always looking out for the bad guy, right from the get-go. And I've carried on like that through my whole life, where I'm always looking for problems and solving them before they happen. And they don't actually transpire, but in my mind, they're out there. And I got to always be ahead of the curve,
Yeah, the overactive mind will affect you, but it won't affect me. The overactive mind can, if you get to the point where you're obsessively, looking at things, that can, be difficult for you, but it's not going to affect me at all. I would much rather have someone be skeptical of these teachings and then harness that to be an inquisitive mind, where they really sink their teeth in, they look through the books, they look through the videos and the podcasts, and they ask questions, and they really try to understand it. That's the very best type of student that's going to actually make their way to enlightenment. If an individual is just going to believe what I share, they'll never get to enlightenment that way. So skepticism can actually be harnessed to turn it into an inquisitive mind. But if you overanalyze things and you overthink things, that can cause you harm, but it's not going to cause me any harm whatsoever. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Paul. So we'll get a chance to catch up some more as you attend classes and we have some personal guidance sessions together.
Okay, then. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Are there others in Zoom or online through Facebook or YouTube that would like to talk? Okay, it looks like maybe we've got Ted this time.
David, hello. Ted, Connecticut and Florida right now, as you just mentioned. I think a big thing, one of my big stories is being in recovery from drugs and alcohol for this time 18 years, but 15 years prior to that, and trying to learn what they offer in spiritual principles. And then sitting in the room with you in Thailand, which was a blessing, just blew my mind. It is what I try to practice now times 1,000. So it was really attraction rather than promotion. I don't know, it lights me up when you talk and everything makes sense. And I especially love the fact that you're not asking me to have faith in anything or just believe. I get to independently verify. So, I put it to the acid test. And if it works, I roll with it. But everything that we talk about, just it clicks. Like, why didn't I think of that before, kind of thing, which I was incapable of. But I just really appreciate a lot of gratitude for finding this, and I thank God for V. We talked about V before, but it was the only temple that we had gone to where there was someone inside answering questions, and then in turn he pointed us to sitting with you. What was it? Sundays and Wednesdays, and then coming home and following through. I'm the kind of guy that likes a lot for a little. I want to be enlightened without doing much work. And hence taking pills or smoking things or drinking things. This is going to take some work. And I think I'm coming to find out that all good things come with some work behind them. And that's important for me to keep at the forefront, because I discourage myself pretty quickly. Like, man, this isn't working yet. I've only been doing it a couple of months. Why hasn't my life changed? But I don't know. I just wanted to share my gratitude for this, and hope to one day at a time, as they say, keep plugging away. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I refer to Mr. V as the concierge of the temple. He's like a concierge. If you would like to know of an elephant sanctuary to go to, he'll point you in that direction. If you're interested in 7-Eleven, he'll point you there. And if you're interested in learning the teachings of the Buddha, he'll point you towards me. So he's like the concierge of the temple.
Yes.
Yeah. Very well. Yeah. Thank you, Ted. Thanks for sharing. All right. Is there anyone else in Zoom or anywhere else that we're live streaming to that would like to share? Okay, it looks like Yihang has her hand up. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Teacher David, and thank you everyone for sharing your stories. I was interested in how you're using skillful methods to get your son rid of the attachment of like being attached with you going to the basketball court. But I also would like to also share my story a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Would you like to go first, or you would like me to go first? What would you like to do?
Maybe you go first, please.
Okay, I can do that. So my son, I was aware that he was attached to me because there was a time where he was like, "Hey, would you like to go to the, basketball court?" Da 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 da. And I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And then I was like working on something on the computer, probably answering some student's question or something. And he was waiting for me. And I said, I've changed my mind. I'm going to stay here and help this student. and I'm not going to go to the basketball court. And he said, okay, well, I'm not going to go either. Right. And that's right away. I knew that he was attached because he was really interested in going. But once I wasn't going, he wasn't interested in going. So now I know he has an attachment. So then in subsequent times when he was interested to go to the basketball court, I would say things like, well, if I don't go, what are you going to do? And he says, well, I'm going to stay home. I'm not going to go if you don't go. And I said, okay, I understand. So I said, I tell you what, why don't you go to the basketball court? I'm just going to finish up some things here. And then in about 3 to 5 minutes, I will come after you, right? Because I needed to get him going to the basketball court by himself without dad. So I said, you go to the basketball court and I'll be there in like 3 to 5 minutes. And I was just going to finish up some things on the computer. This was like a second or third time. And then he went first. He was like, sure, I'll do that. So he went first. And then, maybe 5 minutes later, I followed behind and came and played basketball with him. So then, now we're on the third or fourth time. He would like to go to the basketball court. I said, okay, well, I've got some things to take care of here. What are you going to do? And he said, oh, I'm still going to go to the basketball court and you can just come later. And I said, okay, that sounds good. So then he went to the basketball court and then maybe like 10, 15, 20 minutes later, I came to the basketball court. So then we played basketball. So then the very next time he was interested to go, he decided he was going to go to the basketball court and he wanted me to come. And I said, okay, I'll come afterwards. I said, maybe I will come afterwards. I didn't say I will come. I said, maybe I will come afterwards. And he said, okay. So he left. And then I never went to the basketball court. He just went and played by himself. And then he came home. So this slow progress, right? And then eventually we got to the point where he said, hey, would you like to go to the basketball court? And I said, well, I don't know. What would you do if I didn't go? And he said, well, I would still go. I would go have fun. I was like, okay, well, why don't you go do that? And I may or may not come. I'm not sure yet. And then he's like, all right, I'm going to go. And then he just went by himself. So now he does this regularly. This was probably a good 2 years ago, maybe, that he had this attachment. So this is how I kind of skillfully helped him, because me identifying his attachment, then I just kind of led him on to get to the point where he was able to slowly let it go on his own without me going to the basketball court. And these are the kind of things that you can do when you understand attachment and you understand how the mind works, that it needs to slowly let go. And he needed to lean into this experience of going to the basketball court by himself without always having dad around. So I kind of found a way to have him lean into that by having him go by himself and then me joining him later and then elongating that time that I didn't come, making it longer and longer and longer. And then eventually he was fine going to the basketball court by himself.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's very helpful and very wise that it's like a slow transition. It's like not a sharp thing that force people to do. I think I really need to learn that also. And from all the experience that I've learned from the past to enlightenment before and now, I'm still a little bit like I always like to some change very quickly, especially if it's a change too good. And I always force myself too much. So it always never really end up something, a successful change, transformation. So thank you very much.
Yeah, when you understand that the mind craves permanence, in other words, it does not like impermanence, it doesn't like change. What you can do, whether you're bringing down unwholesome things or you're bringing up wholesome things, is you can do this very small increments to the point where the mind almost doesn't notice what's going on. So my son didn't even notice what's going on. I didn't say to him, like, you're attached to me, you got to go to the basketball court by yourself. Like, how dare you be attached to me? And nothing like that, right? It was just these small little incremental changes where it was, okay, you go by yourself, I'll come in 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, you go by yourself, I'll come when I'm ready. And then it was like 10 minutes, 15 minutes later. Okay, you go by yourself. And then I ended up not coming, right? So it's like the slow incremental changes where the mind almost doesn't even recognize what you're doing. So you can do that for yourself. If you're bringing in like plant-based food, you can do it slowly but surely. Or if you're getting rid of coffee, for example, you can do that slowly but surely. So whether it's something you're bringing down that is unwholesome that you're trying to get rid of, or something wholesome that you're trying to increase, if you just do small little increments like that, the mind will really appreciate that. It won't feel so painful for the mind to do that.
May I also ask, like, what kind of or what time frame that it took for this transformation?
For the basketball thing? Yeah, I think that was probably over the course of, I would say, maybe 2 months, and it was like here and there, that it wasn't like every single day we were going to the basketball court. It was whenever he would ask, so it was probably like a month or two, maybe. I don't remember exactly, but it wasn't much longer than that. And his mind had already been trained to a certain degree. Even when he was an infant, we were doing things where we were redirecting his mind and helping him cut off his discontentedness. And he formally started learning the teachings when he was 6. So he had a lot of, underneath of him, he had a lot of training already. So that's why I can do these kinds of things. And I've done many things like this. If you attend classes with me, you'll hear them over the time. Or if you listen to some of the older podcasts when I was training him a whole lot, I was talking about the different things that I've done. Or if you study some of the classes where I teach about how to teach others the teachings, like children specifically, you'll hear a lot of examples of how I have done these things, because his mind being attached, he can let it go. It's just a matter of providing an environment that he's able to let it go. And when somebody has the wisdom of how the mind needs to let go and what the process is, if you've done that for yourself and you see what happened with your own mind, then you know that you can do this with other people too. And this is the beauty, that as his cravings are getting eliminated, he's becoming more and more peaceful. He's becoming more and more joyful. His mind's becoming more focused and concentrated, where now he very rarely gets upset or irritated or annoyed. And if he does, he just, is quiet and he just walks away and he goes to his room for like 5-10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then he just comes back. He doesn't, yell or holler or get upset or angry or throw any tantrums. He never did that. He never threw any tantrums as a kid. He never did any of those kinds of things, because he was getting this consistent training from his mom and from me.
I feel it sounds already a very mature mind to deal with its own discontentedness as a kid.
Yeah, it's the same process of learning, the same sequence of things that you need to learn, like the 3 universal truths, the 4 noble truths, the Eightfold Path. It's the same sequence. It's just doing it a bit differently. So like with you guys, when I talk about the universal truth of impermanence, I'm just sitting here talking about it, discussing it, giving you examples for you to be able to reflect on it. With him, I talked about it for a minute or two, and we went outside and played a game. We did a scavenger hunt to be able to help him see what the universal truth of impermanence is. And we did other things like that. So I just started playing games with him, and this would help him to learn the teachings. With you guys, if I could play games with you, I would, but I can't over online. But I invite you guys to do different things. And it's really fun that way. And the children really like it, to go out and play games.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
If I could also share a little bit of my story, mine was very short and very simple also. I didn't really start very earlier. I just started, I think, last year, October. So it's just like a very short month, 1 year or something. I was planning a trip with my friend to Thailand, and we were searching. I think at that time my mind is also like never really happy all life also. By the way, I'm 30 years old. I just turned 30 this year. And my mother always looked at me through my growing up, actually. She always complained on me that why can't you just be happy? Like, she always said that to me. So I'm probably just never a happy kid, but I'm also never really very angry or like very, very, I will get depressed sometimes, but not really interested in being very angry to people around me. And then during that trip, we were searching on a Chinese app called Red Book, that someone posted the temple and Teacher David's course on there. And I was interested in like spiritual healing, something about Buddhism as well, because growing up in China, we had a lot of Buddhist influence, but I was also interested in going to the Buddhist temple a lot in China as well. But it just feels nice to appreciate the art there. But every time, I don't know why, I go to the temples in China, I saw people doing all the, I don't know how it calls, the burn the scents there, and they were like a beg for some good fortune there. I don't feel the mind really related to this behavior. So I always just go to appreciate the environment there and art there. So definitely, I was also interested in going to some temples in Thailand and Chiang Mai. And then I followed that post on the Red Book to the temple. And I was thinking, well, the mind is already so demotivated and so depressed. Maybe just try something out there on the internet. I didn't really put any hope or any wish on it. Just would like to go to kill some time. And I didn't even do that many meditation before. But then the chanting sounds, I don't know what happened to my mind. It's just get in a second quiet a lot. And I think it's the first time in my life the mind get that quiet. And through that meditation, I didn't have any thought going on in the mind. I also don't know why. I think I just followed the instruction. And also, I feel the more magical thing happened after the meditation. I mean, I don't want to make it sound so magical, but it was a very life-changing experience to me. That every teachings I've heard, I feel so printed into the mind and the memories. And after that teaching, I think I didn't really go back to the temple because the friend who was traveling with me was not interested in going back, was interested in exploring some other things in Chiang Mai. But I took the website and YouTube, and then I just followed myself personally. And just all the months, is like about 3 or 4 months after that, I listened to the courses, and then I feel the mind gets so much lighter, and I followed meditation, and the mind is also becoming very, very focused. Back then I was doing my MBA course, and it was just, I observed myself become what I look back right now, I feel like it's a totally different person. I was always full of negative thinking, and I was always very small. I don't know how to say it. I was very not a brave person, and never really dared to stand out for myself on any situation. But during that month, after that visit, I was just feel like speaking out of my mind very naturally, and feels like no tension and no nervous at all. And every day I feel like waking up also have no a single degree of depression thought there. It was just feels light. And I was thinking, I just feel like, is that the mind should feel like actually? Was that actually before my life was just too much of this kind of, or that kind of cravings going on there? So I feel like that was a very shocking experience for me for so many months. But I also, now I saw that I also feel like that could bring me some hindrance, that I put too much belief on the teachings, because at that moment I didn't do much effort, but got just very shockingly impact there. So now I do experience a lot of conceit coming in, because it's like that experience, it do bring a lot of joy and happiness at the beginning, but over time, if you don't appreciate that, or if you don't value the effort behind, I feel it goes away. And then you feel, wow, that magic is just gone. And then, I don't know, I think the conceit will come in, and then I become more lazy, or even though I force the mind to meditate, it doesn't really go into that level as before. So I think it does open the door to me to the teaching. I really, really appreciate, and through that experience, also combined with some like my feelings before towards Buddhist and Buddhism, I do feel like this is the only way I can live life. I don't think there's another way that I can think of life or facing life. But I think so I just need still more investigation into the teaching, and I need more time, and I need to say it more correctly, some more of putting the effort, the thing, like it's not a magic. It's a thing that you need to learn and you need to reflect and investigate. So that's my personal reflection towards it.
Okay. So you were born in China. Where do you live?
I'm in Germany right now. Yeah,
Okay.
I was born in China. And I was in the US before also for a couple of years. I was studied in Boston before, and I worked in Los Angeles like shorter year also, and then moved to Germany.
Nice. What's it like in Germany?
It's cold and it's dark. And it's very dark, I think. Yeah, but I think I have very mixed feeling with Germany also. I know this is also my personal reflection. It's not like the place can really make me feel something, but yeah, I think I do have a lot of mixed feeling with this place now.
One of the stereotypes that I hear about Germany is they drink a lot of beer. Is that true?
Too much.
Yeah.
I would say too much. And here I live in Cologne, and people in Cologne, they have a beer called Kush. It's their city's name turns to a beer's name. And they say, we don't drink water, we drink Kush. Whenever we're thirsty, we only drink Kush, not water.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, there's quite a few people from Germany that come to learn. There's actually a gentleman who came today. He's going to interview me tomorrow for his YouTube channel. His name is Hans. I think that's like a very common German name, right?
Yeah.
It's like David.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Thank you, Yihang. It's nice to see you and nice that you've been able to continue learning.
Thank you, David. Nice to see everyone here.
Yeah. I think we have something coming in. Maybe Ted or Kristen might be interested to talk with you.
So, sorry, I'm in a double dip. I can attest that German and beer go very well together. I was there for 2 years. Anyway, David, I have a couple questions. One is when people ask me what I'm doing or what this is about, I don't want to use the term Buddhism because what I've learned here. But if I feel okay to share with them about that, how do I answer that question? I'm studying the teachings of the Buddha, or I'm learning Buddhism, or I don't ever know how to give a short answer to that question.
Yeah, you could say all of those things. Whatever you say is the right answer. The Buddha taught this better way of life. He didn't teach a religion, as you guys have heard me share. He didn't teach any rules or commandments or anything like that. It's not indoctrination or beliefs or opinions or views or concepts. It's this better way of life. It's how to train your mind. So if somebody got into the elevator with me and they said, hey, what do you do? I would say, I teach people how to eliminate discontentedness, how to eliminate anger, sadness, frustration, and other feelings. So that's essentially what you're doing, is you're on this path to learning this better way of life as taught by the Buddha in order to eliminate discontent feelings.
Yeah, if someone answered that to me in an elevator, I would initially look at them like, well, what are you talking about? But because I'm a skeptic like Paul, whenever I hear this, we're on the path to enlightenment, there is still a spike of like, is this for real? Could this actually be attained? Could I do it?
Yeah.
So those things still come to my mind. Although I want it, and everything that I've learned about it is very, very appealing to me. Still that spike of skepticism.
Yeah, that can be healthy sometimes. The the word enlightenment isn't really well understood, and what enlightenment isn't really understood. That's why I start the book with chapter 3. I start the real heart of the book with that, so people understand what enlightenment is. So I usually don't talk about that with people unless they ask it, right? And I might say, like, this is what it's called, this mental state of enlightenment. Instead, I focus on, it's all about training the mind. It's all about eliminating discontent feelings. It's about getting to the peace and joy where the mind can just permanently be in that mental state. It's this better way of life. The word enlightenment means different things to different people. So when someone's brand new and they're asking me, in an elevator, what do you do? I usually don't even mention enlightenment.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Looks like Marcy has her hand back up as well. Guess we're going around for round 2.
Yeah, right. Thank you. So Ying Hong, I don't know if I said your name right, but when you talked about the magical experience, I totally can relate with that because I too had experienced that. And I completely understand that complacency that kind of falls in after you have those moments. You kind of have that complacency, and always brings me back to the image that Teacher David had showed me, where it was the swirl, and then you go up, and then it comes down, and then it's the figure 8, and all the way to where it goes to a point. And so when you were speaking of that, that image came to mind in the sense that that's exactly how it's supposed to go. You are to have these moments of clarity and understanding and absorb the teachings. And then the mind sits there and is like, wow, this is amazing, wonderful. And all of a sudden you kind of get a little bit of complacence. But I've always noticed that when I come out of that complacency, it's almost like it really shoots me back up again. You know what I mean? To where those moments are of more clarity. So thank you for sharing that. It's very embracing. I wanted to let you know that I too understand and relate very much so. But thank you for sharing that.
Okay, it looks like Yihang raised her hand again too.
Yes, thank you, Marcy, to sharing your experience also, because I do have the image in mind also when I feel like, wow, it gets back. But I actually also wanted to raise my hand to ask you a question, because you've been learned that long, that have you experienced that, and how did you overcome that?
In all honesty, the most important thing you can do is activate energy and effort. There's so many times that, like, I'm feeling really calm. I've got this sense of joy. There's no worry of the world. And I'm kind of like so mellow, just like mellow, like life is just mellow. But then I realized, don't fall into this, Marcy. Don't sit still. Don't, just because everything is mellow right now, just don't sit still. And what I'll either do is I'll either go hop on, watch a video, because Teacher David's got some great 10-minute like little clips of video. I think he does the Noble Eightfold Path and all of those things. I'll throw one of those on and I'll get the mind to kind of just think about it a little bit. I try to make sure that the mind doesn't stay too fixated in those moments of joy. And that's something that was really a challenge to find out, because I had lived in darkness so long. I was in misery for so long that when I was feeling these joyous experiences, I was craving them and I was clinging to them and I was really wanting them. So it was difficult for me, in a sense, to know that those pleasant feelings, Marcy, that you're really loving are just as unwholesome as having those painful feelings. So it's really, Teacher David, you had asked me that question. What's one of those challenges? I think recognizing that the pleasant feelings and that contentness that I was receiving was just as harmful to the mind as feeling pleasant, painful feelings. So yeah, I mean, it was, you really, when Teacher David says you got to kind of roll up the sleeves and just dig in, you really got to do it. And it took the mind a little bit of time to recognize those moments of complacency. But now when I see him, like I said, I pop on one of his mini lessons. I'll crack open a book. Usually what I'll do is I say volume 1 is my Bible, right? So sometimes I just take volume 1 and I put it in front of me and then I just let it drop. And whatever it opens up to, I just read. I just read it. If something resonates, something resonates. If something doesn't, it's okay. It's just that having that constant influx of the teachings coming in. So that's what I would say.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that you share this, your experience, because it also brings confidence to me. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. I'm very glad to see that this has grown as much as it has. It's so beneficial to all of us individually and to the entire world.
Mm-hmm. All right. Is there anyone else who is in Zoom that would like to share or talk? Okay, I don't see anyone else. I was just interested to be sure if anybody was out there that was interested in sharing, they had the opportunity to do that. So what I'll do then is just end by thanking all of you guys who shared. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and getting to know each other. Those of you guys that didn't share, it's okay. You guys can maybe share another time. It's totally up to you guys. But at least you guys had an opportunity to get to know each other and kind of know a little bit about some of the members of our community, because you're learning from a teacher, but you're also being able to learn from other people as well if you choose to ask people questions. As I mentioned, next week, we're going to be in chapter 3, which is titled Enlightenment. What is enlightenment? I'm going to walk you through helping you to understand what this mental state is, because then you'll be able to more readily navigate your way to it. If you didn't know what enlightenment was, you wouldn't be able to actually navigate your way to it. So that's why I start off the book with understanding what enlightenment is before we jump into the very first teachings. And that'll be on next Sunday. And then on Wednesday, we're going to be doing the third part of our 4-part series on loving kindness meditation, where I'm going to do loving kindness meditation with students and then open up to any and all questions that you guys have. So thank you all for attending. Thank you all for your dedication and diligence to learning up to this point. And now we're going to move ahead and learn a whole bunch more. So we'll see you guys perhaps in one of these future classes. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.